The second piece of it is the records of the ISO, transmission facility officers and persons directed to, under different sections, must be provided to the committee for the purposes of doing the first, which is to provide that on to the public that have asked for it. So essentially this is giving the public more information on the lines, but again, what's missing here is a timeline. So I take it that this information gets passed on, but once everything's already been approved. So if people... You know what it reminds me of, Mr. Speaker, is the whole process that we get involved with in trying to get information around P3s or around, especially around P3s, but around any kind of contract that the government does. So we have a process in which the request for proposals, or the old-fashioned concept of a tendered bid, they're always closed. So we see the very initial request that the government puts out, but it's not very specific. We have no idea how the various entities are responding and what they are agreeing that they will do or not do to what level. We don't get to see that because it's always a closed process. From that, the successful bidder is chosen. They enter into a contract with the government, and when we try and get information at that stage, we're told, can't see the contract. It's a contract with a third party, business product, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, you can't see it. So the public, the media, the opposition never get a chance in that process to see things. So when we were trying to determine, for example, how cost-effective and what was included and not included in the contracts for some of the P3s, the courthouse was one of the ones that comes to mind, and of course that one didn't proceed. But we actually couldn't get any information about it. And this process is a little bit similar to me, because it says that the information will be provided, but it's provided once all the deals are made, all the contracts are out, and the thing is under construction. Now you can have the information about it. So nice, but not very useful, because what are the people that now get this information supposed to do with it? You know, stand on the highway or down the middle of the right-of-way and go, excuse me, I've now got information and I wish you hadn't done this. I have information that says you could be doing it cheaper. I have information. Whoa, stop, don't put that up. Again, it's about giving, it's kind of lip service. It's addressing part of what people were so angry about, but not in a way that ends up being meaningful. If pressed, I would say yes, I would support this particular section of the amendment more than I would support the previous two, but I kind of wonder what difference it would make. So let me move on to the D section, which is appearing in the hard copy. Oh, here we go. On page 12 of the hard copy. And I'm sorry if I back up a bit. Section 2 sub 13. And here they're replacing the sections that you see currently and giving what is in effect a staging of the line that is supposed to go up to Fort McMurray. So it's a little, if you read the two of them of what was and what will be in this amendment, you get two different versions of it, but essentially it creates a staging for that line. And it also, oh yeah, there's something else in here, because the beginning of it, where am I? Yes. So in Section 2, it talks about the terminals should have an initial capacity of at least 1,000 megawatts each and be expandable to a minimum capacity of 2,000 megawatts each. Interesting. And this is, I remember earlier I was talking about a reference that will turn up. This is the reference that turns up. So it proposes that the lines can go forward in a stage rather than all at once. And it's adjusting, as I said, in a minor way, that the connection between Edmonton and Fort McMurray to allow for the staging of that. No, unless I've missed something, this is not dealing with the. Oh yes, I'm sorry. With the one that goes between Edmonton and Calgary. So I think the argument here is that it can get at that charge of overbuilding, the kind of Lexus complaint that we've heard, that if these lines, which are the AVDC lines, which are the more expensive technology, and it was felt they were overbuilding, you could see this amendment as addressing that, and that it allows it to kind of back off of that gold-plated status. But we're still getting that jump from 1,000 to 2,000 and no details in there about at a minimum of 1 year in increments or at a minimum of 6 months or 5 years. There's no timing involved with that, so again, part of the same problem. Yeah, so you get a gold-plated approach, but it's a staged gold-plated approach. And it doesn't really change the principle of the bill. Again, if I was pressed to it, it does include the staging, it does deal with the gold-plated, but it doesn't have a huge effect on the final shape of the bill. And the Section E, you know what, I'm not sure that I actually marked that in the bill. Yep, sorry I didn't, so I can't give a reference for that. Sorry. Section E is amending Section 19, wait, it's coming here, which is on the bottom of page 12, and striking out or is not in the public interest. And again, this is looking to me as though it's cosmetic change that does not address any of the major issues that have been brought forward. It removes one of the restrictions in Section 3 that was placed on the Alberta Utilities Commission, but it leaves in place others of equal import and force. So it's not even one step forward, 2 steps back. It's one step sideways and another one back. It's just another dance step that leaves you standing in exactly the same position that you were. The Commission is still prevented from saying whether or not the transmission lines are needed. You know what it reminded me of is a toggle switch. What you get is an off-on position. So all we're allowing in a number of places in this bill is for the agencies in power to say yes, no, but not anything else, and not to deal with anything else. So I think the government. Well, the government clearly set out on this bill to do something very specific. They feel justified in doing it. But frankly, based on everything I've seen since and listening to the debate that's happened, there's a lot of experts, not in this House, and that's not casting dispersions, who are questioning whether this is needed and how fast it proceeds and how expensive it is. And there was a lot of them. I'm just looking. We had the University of Calgary School of Public Policy there's statements like, it is less likely that project approval and conditions will be driven by short-term political interests and more likely that the regulator's perspective will reflect long-term benefits and cost to the province, but then goes on to talk about public process allows for greater scrutiny of alternative points of view and requirements to provide rationale. So they don't seem very keen on it. We had the Environmental Law Centre saying instead of enhancing the transmission approval process, Bill 50 would make the problem of needs assessment and approval for transmission infrastructure in Alberta worse.